Overwatch 2 is taking a huge risk with its most hated role. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Stylosa. So, what we're going to do here is look at this, frankly, gamble that Blizzard are taking with the tank role in Overwatch 2. Now, it comes as no surprise and nobody will be shocked. There are no surprise Pikachu faces around here with this. But the tank role is the most hated role in Overwatch 2. It is the role where you are generally a bullet sponge. You feel like unless you've got good support supporting you, keeping you in the fight, unless your DPS are actually doing stuff, that you generally lose. And you get forced into picking certain tanks because almost every other tank is not good enough. Obviously, we're coming out of an Orisa meta where Orisa was incredibly powerful, although she has been nerfed now. So yeah, we're probably going to go into a Roadhog meta as a result. But anyway, tanks in Overwatch 2 have got a problem. The problem is Blizzard want them to, well, they want them to occupy the slot of two tanks because that's what it used to be in Overwatch 1. You had your main tank and your off tank. You had interplay between the tanks. You don't have that anymore. So one of the main driving balance features or factors of Overwatch 2's tank design was to make the tanks more brawler orientated. And that essentially means let them get into the action more, let them sort of lead the fight, let them create space by being in there fighting the enemy team instead of maybe being a shield bot or, you know, doing something completely different. But has that worked? Well, the answer to that question in a very roundabout way is no, it hasn't worked, because tanking has been the butt of DPS annihilating you. It's been the butt of supports. If they don't decide to support you, then you die. We've all been there throughout the Mauga meta where it was just horrific. Mauga versus Mauga. The thing with that is, and actually I bet Mauga will probably come into prominence a little bit more now with this change when I explain it. Also with the nerf of Orisa. But the Mauga was the ideal example of this. Mauga versus Mauga. Mauga's a tank that needs to do damage to sustain himself through self-heal. And through lifesteal. The way he does that is by shooting the other tank. So if you're shooting the other Mauga and you're not getting the support from your team, your supports are maybe doing something else, your DPS may be shooting somebody else, but the enemy team is all pouring the fire into you and you're the tank, you die, that Mauga wins. There's no skill involved there. It's terrible, terrible hero design. And that's kind of what permeates the tank role in Overwatch 2. And it is by far the least played role. Anyway, let's take a look at this because it's massive. This is actually massive. What I will say, though, is I love the fact that Overwatch are gambling now. They're taking risks. They're making huge system changes. And it feels like this is almost potentially the Microsoft impact on Blizzard, where they're just allowed to kind of go and do what they want. It's their game. Go and sort it out. There's no, like, big bad Bobby who needs some sort of stupid change or whatever. Those days are gone. So maybe we're seeing more now of just the devs actually working with and playing with the game and making changes they want to change. Because remember, all of this stuff can be changed as well. So I think it is a huge bonus for the game. They are taking the risk and they are making changes like this. So let's break this down because it is huge. Director's take: empowering tanks in mid-season. In Overwatch 2, tanks are the imposing heroes who take the brunt of the fight while enabling their teammates to secure eliminations. While tanks are a big target for opponents to focus on, many team comps aim to burn down a tank's HP quickly, or they get moved around a lot from displacement abilities. We've received feedback that tanks can either feel like they get taken down too quickly in a fight, or that they're impossible to take down. So, yeah, feedback either way. I mean, it goes without saying. This again goes back to that thing of, if you're a tank and you're getting full resources pumped into you from your team, you will feel like a god, especially if the other team is not doing that. You will start tank diffing the enemy tank. And it has to be said, when you do get a tank diff, whether it's through skill or just team comp, or even the fact that your team is supporting you and the other team are not supporting their tank, it's just like a steamroll. It's a crucial element to the game. If the tank folds or if the tank is getting completely diffed, you will generally lose that game. Well, it's not even generally, you will lose that game. You'll get destroyed. Now, what I think is interesting about this comment is, yeah, tanks' HP does get burnt down quickly, and a lot of team comps are focused on potentially burning down tanks. So what you're about to see is their idea of fixing this is to essentially reduce headshot damage to tanks, which is very interesting, and also give tanks a ton more self-heal through the self-heal passive. So our mid-season update is going to help balance how many hits a tank can take to stay in the fight better. First, we're specifically buffing the tank passive to have a 25% damage reduction from headshots, which should help cut down on being burst down in a fight. We're also increasing the knockback resistance for tanks from 30 to 50%, which should allow them to hold the front line a lot more and not feel as subjected to displacement abilities. Now, any Lucio enjoyers out there are probably a bit annoyed with this, because Lucio is actually one of the best counters for Junker Queen, who is subsequently also getting buffed in this mid-season patch. However, booping Junker Queen was super annoying. Like, you could mess her up. I mean, you could boop her during her ultimate, you could just boop her all over the place. It was super annoying for Junker Queen to deal with Lucio. I'm actually a fan of the knockback change, because I think tanks shouldn't just get booped around all over the place. You know, I've been through the very dark days of Overwatch 1 where everyone was just getting stunned constantly. I mean, does anyone remember OG Brig with a shield bash stunning you? Yeah. You know, all of that stuff. It's just not great. Through shields as well. That was hilarious in the GOATS meta. Anyway, yeah, so I agree with that. The thing is, though, do I agree with this 25% damage reduction from headshots? Oh, dear. Now, the reason why tanks are frustrating is they're either unkillable or they die because all resources are pumped into killing the other tank. Now. If tanks are now taking 25% less damage from headshots, that is a bit of a problem, because that means that even though DPS has been incentivized to go for the head, and you should be rewarded for having better accuracy, you know, and if you're a soldier and you're shooting Reinhardt in the head, you should do more damage to him, and you do, and you get rewarded for that. However, what Blizzard are doing is saying, no, the tanks now take 25% less damage shooting him in the head. Still obviously worth shooting him in the head because it is extra bonus damage, but it's 25% less. This is my issue with this. It kind of dumbs down the DPS role a bit. Like, tanks are just going to become, okay, they're a bit harder to kill now because they've got this extra 25% on the headshot or the hitbox, the crit box, I should say, hitbox. And what's that going to happen? Like, what's that going to do to the game? There is this spectre looming over us. I mean, we've just seen it recently with the Orisa meta, where Orisa is literally unkillable. Cycling her ability, she just doesn't die. This is almost making tanks a lot harder to kill. So are we going to see tanks just become giga powerful? Think of tanks that you generally farm in their crit box. D.Va, Winston, Roadhog. I mean, they're going to be really strong off this buff. Honestly, this is frankly could be insane. We're also making some global gameplay changes that impact tanks. One is that we're reverting the armor damage reduction back to reducing 5 damage per projectile up to a maximum 50%. This means heroes like Reaper and Tracer will have more work to do to take down heroes like Reinhardt. Heroes with high burst damage per projectile will still be effective, but these kind of tanks have better means to counterplay that type of damage. This is an interesting one, and I think this might have been enough instead of going with the 25% damage reduction on the crit box hitbox or the headshot hitbox, because this is actually really nice, especially for heroes like Ryan or heroes that have got any armor. This is really nice against heroes like Reaper and Tracer, who are doing a lot of small amounts of damage to you, but very fast. This is massive buff. Next, we made a light change to our overall HP recovery passive that will enable mobile tanks to get back to the front lines faster. The health regeneration passive for all heroes will no longer recover 20 HP per second out of combat, but instead recover 10 health plus 5% of their maximum HP per second. This means a hero like Reinhardt will recover their health at 45 health per second in a roll queue match. Again, this is an actual giga buff to tank survivability. You will get into situations where you need healing. And I mean, I'm not even sure that tanks like Reinhardt, who generally are near their team or should be within some sort of line of sight of getting healing, are going to benefit the most from this. I think your dive tanks are just going to be crazy off this. Your Winstons, your Divas, you know, your Doomfist, I think is going to absolutely benefit like crazy off this. This is insane. This is like a massive buff. So I think when I'm talking about this is a huge risk, a huge gamble that they're taking, they are buffing a ton of aspects of tanks here to make them really, really survivable. And there is a very alarming danger that tanks just become nigh on unkillable through all of this. And is that a game that we want to play? Probably not. This is the issue with having one tank in the game, though. You know, we could go into a debate on 6v6, but this is an issue of one tank. Blizzard cannot give the singular tank on the team too much damage, and they cannot give them too much survivability. But on the other hand, they can't give them not enough damage or not enough survivability, so they feel terrible to play. So when they actually... I don't think they've never actually hit this balance, but they either make them too strong or they make them too weak. But we're not seeing this throughout the entire tank role. We're seeing it through certain heroes, whether they're being buffed or nerfed. But these changes, these 3 changes we're seeing here, are 3 massive changes to tank survivability that, for me, I think could be a little bit too much, a little bit too soon. But... this is like I said at the top of the video. They are willing to take risks. They are willing to just go, let's blow this up. Let's make a massive change. And this, to me, this piqued my interest. You know, I was like, holy shit, this is a lot of changes here. When I read through the blog, I was like, what? This seems insane. This seems like they really want to take tanks to another level of survivability. But how are they going to counter that when it comes to DPS killing tanks or even tank versus tank? Now, I'm not going to go too much into where this could push the meta. I do think, though, you're going to be looking at tanks like Roadhog. You're going to be looking at maybe Malga. You're going to be looking at potentially something like... I mean, Junker Queen could be quite good as well. And maybe this is the world that Blizzard want with their game. This is the true brawler tank identity of Overwatch 2. And those tanks that can effectively brawl become super strong. Maybe even Reinhardt goes into that role. Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the video. Let me know what you think about this, because this could be a massive change for the game. Well, it is. It's just a massive change for the game. I think this is great that Blizzard are doing it. I want to see them do more of this, but we'll see how reactive they are when it comes to seeing if this is totally broken. It pushes the game in the wrong direction. We'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you lot on the next one. See you soon.